Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for showing up here on a beautiful Wednesday afternoon. I'm in Montana. Had to relocate for a few days. I'm here taking care of some business with family. And so I've got a double decker today. We've got some exciting things. Before we get started with my guest today, let me thank my sponsors at 5 Star Guitars. 5 Star's based in Oregon, and so there's no sales tax. So if you go to the link below, 5starguitars.com/all-access-live, and enter the promo code of All Access 15. You're going to save 15% on top of the bonus, no sales tax. So let 5 Star know that I sent you their way, and they'll appreciate it. Now, there's a tie-in. They have lessons, they have repairs, and you can get lessons from pros like Jennifer Batten. So if you know anything about Jennifer Batten, aside from the fact that she played with Michael Jackson, Jeff Beck, she knows how to get the good gigs. She also holds a Guitar Cloud Symposium, which just wrapped up its deep dive session this last weekend, where they talked about how to get the good gigs. So you can go to guitarcloudsymposium.com for the next one. They've got one coming up in a few weeks. Sign up now. You will find some testimonials and a lot of alumni that have showed up there in the past. We've had incredible guests. They have had incredible guests, and they've had incredible clinicians like my next guest. So I know I've seen Steve Vai there. I've seen Dweezil Zappa, and there's none more sexy than this dude right here. Check it out. I've got Mark Lettieri from Snarky Puppy and other things. How are you?
I feel 10 times more attractive after that intro, so thank you. I should have shaved, or at least, I don't know, maybe they like the chest hair. We'll see.
Yeah, man. Well, it's funny because I have Tawny Katane coming up shortly in a week, and I usually lead in with there's none more sexy than Tawny Katane, other than Mark Lettieri.
Nice. So, well, I don't have a Jaguar. I have a Volkswagen, so there won't be any Jaguar gymnastics.
That's all good, man. You know what? You don't need a Jaguar. You have gear. Look at all those guitars behind you.
Well, hey,
what a playroom, man! This is amazing.
It's the studio, whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
Man, this is really fun, and I appreciate you catching me up on time.
Sure.
For those people that are here that may not be guitar aficionados like you want to catch people up a little bit on who you are, what you do?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I'm a guitarist, songwriter, record maker, session musician, teacher, gear demo person. I just kind of do it all in the modern music landscape these days. But, prior to pandemic, I spent a lot of time on the road with a band called Snarky Puppy. I also tour under my own name, behind my own records. I've done a lot of freelance touring as like a sideman with different artists, played on a lot of records with a lot of people. And now, we're starting to get gigs again. So that's good. Things are kind of starting to move in that direction. But I don't know. I do a lot of gear. Yeah,
It's funny that you talk about now we have gigs again, right? So
yeah,
if musicians know that it's been a challenging time during the pandemic. So I'm wondering, did you do some live streaming things or any kind of session work while this pandemic happened?
Well, I did a load of session work, which has been great because I love doing it. And I do a lot of it from right here in the gear room. So that's been really cool. And I did do some performances. I did a lot of clinics, actually, like Zoom clinics for universities and things like that, which has been really fun. I like doing stuff like that. So it's just me and a screen of 60 people. And I play and talk and answer questions and offer unsolicited advice about having a career in the music business.
You're unsolicited. No, that's good.
Well, they ask me a question and then I answer it, but totally the wrong answer. Probably stuff they don't need to hear,
because you're a gear geek. Is that why?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, how do I get gigs? I don't know. Just don't say no to anything.
Okay, well that's one way. I mean, that's the LA way.
There you go.
But you're not just LA, right? I mean, you've been in some.
Well, I've never been LA. I'm in Texas. I'm in Fort Worth, Texas.
Okay.
And so I claim the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex as home. I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area, so I do have California roots. But as far as where I sort of made my bones as a player, that was here in Texas. So
man, All right. So Texas, when did you say you moved from the Bay?
Well, I started at college, so 18, 19.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I think at that point we've had several Texans, right, that have come on. I've got a lot of friends that are Dallas, Austin area. Uh, it's really strange the way that Texas. I mean, it's of course a huge state, but there are multiple cultures in that state, right?
Sure. Yeah.
If you and I hate to admit this, and I'm sorry for your locals there, but I think Houston might be my least favorite city in country. But I will say the people there are amazing. Like I love a lot of Houstonians, right? But what
Sure.
happens if we roll in and you're on wheels, it's so bloody hot all the time, and the humidity is surprisingly shitty. It's awful,
Yeah.
and from what I remember, so much sand, and I found like bullet casings around a lot of our venues. So I felt like I was in Fallujah, right? So,
well,
I mean, it depends on where you're playing, but
sure. Yeah. I mean, Houston's, they got the short end of the stick because the weather is generally, as far as Texas weather is concerned, I think Houston got it the worst. Because they get the heat, but then they get the hurricanes, and then there's just a lot of asphalt down there too. So
that's the thing. Yeah. What's up with the concrete?
I don't know. It has kind of an LA feel to it. A lot of traffic.
Do you have parks?
No beach. Well, we do. I mean, Fort Worth is very green. Yeah, up here it's very green and cozy. Same with Austin, Yeah.
So. I like. I'll tell you, I think Dallas has my favorite House of Blues in the country.
Sure. Oh yeah, that's a nice.
I love that room. The big, huge, full wall, the window to look out over the crowd and the band.
Yep, it's fun one to play. It's good sound there. Good room.
Yeah, I mean, you've done sort of like everything, man. Tiny rooms, huge like venues. Would you say like Snarky Puppy is probably like your sort of most recognizable commercial venture?
Commercial. Yeah.
Well, okay. No.
We play instrumental music, man.
Okay. I should tell anybody that might be watching that's not a musician. All right. So Snarky Puppy, for anybody that's a musician that has seen your first video, like the first time you see Snarky Puppy, it's a punch to the gut. It's incredibly exciting. And you think it's one of those moments where you think, I need to go practice, or okay, you know what? Unless I can find like-minded individuals, I just give up, And so there's huge chemistry going on in that band. And so when I say commercial, it is approachable. It's digestible from even non-musicians. Yeah. So
great.
I love it. But have you had anything that because I was talking about venues, right? So I was thinking, which bands allowed you the biggest environment to play in front of people?
Sure. Well, the funny thing about Snarky Puppy is that we've played tiny, tiny rooms where there's more people on stage than there were in the audience, and then we've played rooms like Royal Albert Hall, which has been just incredible. So, and Snarky's played a lot of jazz festivals in Europe. So we do a lot of sort of historical rooms and outdoor venues. And, man, I've played in everything from Roman Empire theaters to, tiny jazz rooms underground,
No kidding.
Yeah. I mean, we do it. I'll give me a stage and 110 power and we'll just go.
You were serious.
Or 220,
You said a gig, if something comes out, you just don't say no. That's oftentimes the recommendation for something. But you know what, man? Like I said, I'm back in Montana right now. Came back this week. Mm-hmm. This is where I grew up. And I was that guy. I played every gig that came my way. I would do the first gig I had was a jazz gig. My dad was a jazz musician. Cool. I was not a jazz kid, man. I was 16 and I was a long-haired mullet rocking guy, Right, so my swing was as stiff and goofy as you could possibly get. But I was glad to get exposed to that and played everything, country, funk, rock and jazz and all that good stuff. I was appreciative that the opportunities came my way because I was willing to say yes. And I put myself out there. And a lot of people ask you, man, how do I get the good gigs or how do I get these gigs? A lot of it, as you know, is networking. It's the ability to be approachable, the hang. Because if you're an asshole, you're not getting the phone calls. But so realistically, I mean, you have a lot of people coming your way asking you for career advice. So say somebody gets, they just graduated MI or Berkeley, and they said, "Man, Mark, you seem to have figured it out. What's my next step as a guitarist?"
Yeah, that's a great question, and there's there's multiple answers because everybody's path is different. But like you said, it's networking. You will build a career based on the people that you are around, and it's a symbiotic relationship. There will be people that will help you, and then there will be people that you will help, and you create a circle, a community where everyone is elevated because of the interaction amongst all the musicians. But it's like, well, how do you create that community? For me, I just went where the musicians were. I went to jam sessions. I went to open mics. I went to church functions. I went to wherever live music was being made. Right.
Yeah.
And I introduced myself. I sat in, I signed lists. I waited in the back, waited my turn until it was time to play. I played my one song. I said thanks to the band leader, and I came back the next week.
Wow.
There's just the things that at least to me and my peers, that's what we were all doing. Nowadays you throw social media into the mix, and that's kind of another way to be present and connect,
Sure.
which I encourage to do, as long as you maintain a healthy relationship with it. But you cannot beat the face-to-face interaction, which, hopefully when things are starting to warm back up, post-pandemic, I'm not saying it's over, but when things get back to the way they used to be, that's what you got to do.
You mentioned as long as there's a healthy balance to the social media thing. So when you're when you're getting consulted by these young adults, how do you recommend they adhere to a healthy social media balance?
I think as long as you're doing it in a way that makes you happy creatively, and you are able to maintain it to where it's not taking up too much of your time and also too much of your personal worth. Because it's very easy to compare yourself to all these people. It's very easy to run the numbers and run the likes and run the why did this thing not get views and this one thing did, and what's going on with the algorithm, and should I pay to have this boosted, and who do I tag, and what. It's a headache, It is. So as long as you can do it to where it's still kind of fun and you're meeting people and it's a positive thing. And of course, this is a per person answer, right? Like everyone has what positivity means to them on a personal level. So if you know yourself and something doesn't feel good about the way you're handling social media, you need to change something.
Yeah.
So,
isn't it interesting that you think about your career path prior to social media? You think about I'm guessing that you were postering, the walls and hitting up.
Oh man, we were in college. We were the band that the administration would be like, that's those guys that put the flyer on the outside of the English department. Get them.
Well, did you go as far as seeing the flyers that other bands put up and then you just staple yours over the top of them?
No, we didn't do that. We weren't like LA Sunset Strip. It wasn't Motley Crue. We weren't doing that. We were like, hey man, we should play a show together next time, man. Let's both bands together.
Yeah. So. Well, the camaraderie again, man.
There you go.
When you were doing the college gigs, were you with the club dates? What stylistic sort of focus did you have then?
Sure. I mean, let's see. The band I had in college was a funky rock jam band, basically, with some friends. And we played the bar scene, the local bars, till 2 a.m. for free Corona. I mean, it was like, we didn't care. And we wrote our own songs. We'd made like a demos tape or a demo CD, I guess it was. And it was fun. We played maybe once a month somewhere in Fort Worth. Yeah,
that demo's worth some money out there somewhere, man. Somebody's got it. It'll go on eBay.
Yeah, probably so. Yeah, man.
So, from college on, then kind of walk me through a little bit of, and I don't mean to make this sort of a informative interview style. I love non-musicians getting to know who you are, because when you're very present in social media, your YouTube presence is massive, and when people get to see the Mark Lettieri that's just a blistering player and can pretty much look like you can play anything, they might not see how approachable and friendly you are. And the first time I got to hear you speak was when Jennifer had her Guitar Cloud Symposium. And I could see that you were as much a fan of the music as you are a player. And so I think it's endearing for musicians and non-musicians to see that and think, well, this guy will allow himself to sort of be at our level, to talk to people at our level. So there's humility there, which is fantastic,
Thanks, man.
And so I figured some of this has to come from some of your upbringing. And that's kind of why I wanted to know about the band scene, post college and what your journey was like, because I think that molded you into a very humble but yet wicked player. So,
well, thanks, man. I mean, I know that being able to do music for a living and like pay my bills and take care of a family is a very unique thing, and I know it. And any minute it can go away.
Right.
So,
as we found out this last year.
Yeah, there you go. So I definitely do not take it for granted, and I definitely do not take any of the opportunities that I've had for granted. I always walk into a situation feeling confident, but always feeling like there's something I'm going to learn today. Okay. Anytime I walk into a situation feeling like, or I should say, don't ever get into a situation where you feel like you're the best musician in the room, because you're probably not.
Okay.
For whatever reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's always something you'll learn, even if you maybe technically are the best player there. Sure. There's somebody doing something that you can learn from. And I think if you have that you have that mindset when you walk into a musical situation, it brings everything to a very serene level, and you don't have to think about ego. You just play, So yeah, maybe thanks, mom and dad, I guess.
Yeah.
but yeah, that's, I just look at everything like that.
How about like sort of those mentors then? If you had sort of, as your career developed, did you have somebody that was at a higher level that was either,
I've had a lot of them. Had a lot of them. Yeah. I mean, I had some great teachers growing up, that I had private study that were a huge help. And then just some older musicians from the scene here that didn't have to put me on a gig, but they did.
Okay.
And, I probably was terrible the first time that they did it, but then they let me come back.
Yeah.
And a lot of those guys are in Snarky Puppy, actually.
Really?
Yeah. So
okay.
Like Sean Martin and Robert C. Wright and Jason Thomas, Bobby Sparks. So a lot of the players, guys like R.C. Williams. I'm trying to think who. I mean, there's all sorts of fellas here that. I had a really good friend of mine, Lanisha Fentress, who was just a friend from church, who used to just be like, "Mark, jam session tomorrow. What are you doing? Cancel your plans. Come." Like stuff like that, just to get me out. I was going to play Halo with my roommates and whatever. and so she was like, "No, you should come because so and so is going to be there, and you need to meet this person and play with them." So just having people that kind of would pull you along,
They're looking out for you, man.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think, you mentioned that the first recommendation you got to go do that gig, and you said you probably sucked. You were asked back. Probably didn't suck that bad. Otherwise,
maybe not, but
in your own mind, you're your own worst critic, you hope, right? And so how about like any just like brutal fails, as you work your way up, some of those humiliating moments where you thought, oh man, this is possibly the end of me.
Oh man. Every time somebody asks me this question, I always remember the answer after the thing is over, but I mean,
we can go back to that later.
Maybe we will. I know there have been some, but yeah. And maybe they've all skated under the radar because we got a second take or something like that.
Right. Yeah. The correct answer is I have never failed.
Right. I've fixed it all in post.
That's right, man. This is something I usually ask at the end, but I'm going to ask you now because this is another derailer. All right. Completely separate. Tell me, people that know Mark Lettieri, what is a guilty pleasure that they might not know about?
Watching The Bachelor.
Oh, really?
Oh my gosh. My wife and I are like, yeah, it's bad, dude.
Awesome. I love it.
Bachelor. I should just say the Bachelor franchise because they got The Bachelor and The Bachelorette. What a train wreck that show is. But hey, quality entertainment when you're sitting in bed. Musically,
you do an awful lot of counting. So I would think, as a scientist, right? You know, an analytical person, you've got to dumb it down a little bit. So sorry if you're out there and you're a fan of The Bachelor, Lisa Anderson from Fort Worth. I'm glad to see you here in the chat. But if you're a fan of The Bachelor, I apologize. But I love it. You know, it's always a different thing. Like sometimes people will talk about, you know, their musical sort of guilty pleasures, and almost every, you know, for the first 10, it seemed like everybody was saying ABBA, and I thought ABBA's not a guilty pleasure. That's, yeah, I mean, but Dave Ellison from Megadeth, he admitted,
ABBA fan.
No, disco. He said we had to keep it quiet, but if you like disco, you could get the chicks, you could get laid. So I loved that I have that as a soundbite, right? That I think about him. You know, if I were to like grab your iPhone or your iPod or your device and look through your playlist, is there anything there that just jumps out at you?
No, because I will stand by every musical purchase or decision I've ever made for somehow, you know.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. It's like disco. All the guys and gals that were playing on those records were some of the baddest session musicians in the world.
Totally.
So it's like whatever the roller skating and the disco balls going on. You listen to the bass line and the drum groove because they're killing it. They are. Yeah. The guitar is killing it. Like the strings, disco strings. Come on, man. Really? Yeah. Like there's something beautiful in all that stuff.
I agree.
You know,
I love it. I don't think there's anything wrong with disco. But I have to admit, you know, my disco era was like when Kiss went to disco, right?
Sure.
So that will age me for sure.
Yeah. But, well, I was never in a seriously real metal band where I could get my ass kicked if I said I liked disco. So I sympathize with Dave there. I get it.
Okay. Right. Now, you was there a project that like, I guess because you talked about being in funk bands and rock bands out of college. How long between then and the time that you formed with these cats? Because you've obviously known the guys in Snarky Puppy for a while, some of them.
Sure. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead. Finish your question.
I was just going to say, was there a transition period where you were out kind of delving into other styles, and then you said, you know what, this is something that resonates with me. Let's do this. And Puppy became.
Well, I was sort of a late, I guess the band's been around for a while now, but sort of a later addition to the ensemble. The guys had started at a university together, and there were maybe about 7 or 8 of them, kind of the first dudes that were doing the band. So I was in the music scene pursuing my own rock band at the time, doing freelance stuff, just being in the scene.
Yeah.
And met the guys from Snarky Puppy because they were doing the same thing. When Snarky wasn't playing, everyone was just trying to get gigs because Snarky wasn't making any money. Right. So it wasn't really a full time. I mean, the guys were dedicated to it, but if you had a wedding band gig, you took your wedding band gig. If you had a singer songwriter backup gig, you did that. If you had a recording set, whatever, we were just trying to make ends meet,
Yeah.
And so I met all the guys through that, going to these, and they were frequenting the jam sessions too. And kind of the way it was at the time is that Michael, the band leader, the bass player, was just trying to get as many gigs as possible for the band, as you do. But because everyone was young and trying to make money in the scene, he couldn't always get the same guys on every gig. Cause so-and-so has a wedding band gig. Well, what are we going to do for a guitar player? Lettieri, hey man, I know you've never played this music before, but can you learn 13 songs by Friday,
Always yes.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I said. I had 3 days to learn 2 records.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, yeah, man, what are we doing? So we're going to New Orleans. We got a Mardi Gras gig at this bar on Frenchman Street. And I was like, cool.
Yeah,
I can do it.
Yeah.
And I just buried my head in the records and kind of half-assed read through the charts and tried to memorize as much as I could. And that was enough,
Did they send you charts, or were you doing your own transcription?
They had charts, but I was only looking at them as sort of like a backup to check my ear, because I'm not like a great reader. So I just was kind of like, okay, I guess that is right, or oh no, that's actually an F, But anyway, we did the gigs in New Orleans that weekend, and Mike and the guys were like, dude, you learned all the material, you sounded great. Like, can we keep calling you? And I was like, of course, because they were all my friends, even though we weren't in a band together yet. They were all my friends, and I was a fan of the band. I mean, I loved the band.
Yeah.
So I was like, cool, man. Yeah, let's go.
Is it as fun as it looks?
It's not fun. Yeah, it's great. I mean, and just kind of like the way Well, we've done
Sure.
so much. It's like like our kids know each other. It's like our kids know each other now at this point. Like it's just a bunch of
Sibling
just a
stuff.
hang.
Yeah,
it's a big family.
When
Big family.
Whenever people see, whatever they've seen on YouTube or they see something live, we're in the entertainment business, right? So you're never going to go on stage and show any disdain for a band member or anything like that. But there's time where, right, you're traveling and you're exhausted and people haven't any sleep and you're eating poorly and somebody just wakes up cranky. That then it is kind of like a sibling thing, right? You and brothers or sisters. I don't know if you have any siblings, but I know my brother's room. He and I have had our share of sort of not so much knockdown drag outs, but
right.
And it's like if most people have had romantic relationships that have had less than amicable days, and if you take 5, 6, 7 people in a van traveling around, just multiply that challenge. So but I'm just going to prefer to believe that it's always sunshine and rainbows.
Well, we made it this far.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nobody's caught fire yet. So, I mean, I think a lot of the early days stuff, we came from driving around in a van that only worked half the time, playing in venues that only turned on half the time, sleeping on floors. Like, all right, we're Snarky Puppy. Thanks. Who has a couch? Like,
oh man.
And so like when you go through the fire like that, all of the sort of adolescent 20-year-old working shit out stuff gets worked out. And either it's going to work for you or it's not going to work for you. And so, we've made it this far. We're all grown men now, most of us.
Right. I was just going to say, but I'm not grown up.
Yeah. I mean, I think if we were all starting to do this now and like getting in a van and doing the whole thing that we were doing when we were 22, like probably would not happen. Yeah. But there's a time to do that. And it was 15 years ago.
Amen. Yeah.
Right.
It's a strange time we're in right now, right? Where touring just stopped. It's the only time in any of our generations where gigs just disappeared. And I mean, they talk about it being the great equalizer, right? I mean, one great thing is that having to sort of navigate this whole thing in a different light has been both a challenge, but it's also an opportunity. So have you been able to sort of make lemonade out of these lemons? Obviously doing a lot of session work. Is it picked up a lot since you've been at home?
I think so. Yeah. Because when I am touring, I have a reputation of, he's never home. And so I just don't get calls for things, but now people know that I am. And so, hey, I'll play on your record. So that's been good. I mean, it wasn't an easy transition. I mean, like April, May, June, July, I'm looking at everything just disappearing and just being like, man, I don't know is this what I'm really supposed to be doing? Like I had a lot of big questions. Yeah. And I found a rhythm. I found kind of creativity again and found the beauty of just being home. Because if you think about it, it's like, I was probably going to take some sort of a break from touring at some point in my life. So I'll just do it now.
Right.
And it's been good. I have a rhythm now. I've been able to make sure that the financial stuff is still getting handled. And you just learn to diversify and you learn to be super flexible.
It's a challenge, but if you do learn that, how long have you been married?
Hang on.
Is that the question I get you on?
Right. That's 9 years. It'll be 9 years in April.
Yeah. All right. So you were already pursuing the music career and you got to meet her. I would imagine she doesn't mind so much having you home this much.
I don't know. They're not home right now. So that, that should tell you something. No, I don't know. We'll bring her on camera. She loves it when I do that.
A lot of my buddies have said that their relationships have grown, but it's different for them. So the adjustment period is a little strange, right? All of a sudden there's a different, you expect, we're going to go off and do family stuff if you got kids, but it ends up being that you're so used to being on the go all the time. You gotta like lobby check or lobby call at certain time to the next gig. When you're out there, it's sort of mania, right? And then you get home, and the mania becomes chores, paying bills, and
Sure.
taxes and all that silly stuff. But I love to hear about different projects. Like for me, this thing came out of Jennifer Batten saying, you know what,
Cool.
the little Facebook Live hangs that you've been doing, you should just do that as sort of a podcast. And I laughed. I thought everybody's got a podcast, but what was great about it, it's cathartic to talk to other friends and musicians who found a different way to find some sort of joy or passion in this, in the industry. I don't have a great studio set up for recording that at home, but I know that setting up my drums, I play drums, right? I don't like to play at home by myself. And it's not that I don't want to practice, but I thrive on interaction with the band. I thrive on that interaction with the crowd. And when I get into the studio where I'm playing my drums by myself, I hate to say it, it's like the worst sex ever, right? Because you're there all alone. And it's just, for me, it's depressing, right? And so I just played my first live audience gig Thursday. It was unbelievable. And it was like one of those tiny little clubs that was just, only allowing a certain capacity that probably allowed too many people. I had my mask on. I did the mask and I was way in the back, but it was unbelievably cathartic, Sure. And so how about for you, man? Have you been able to do any of those kind of things where, sort of socially distant live gigs or?
Well, yeah. I mean, at first, I did a lot of, maybe starting around, maybe over the summer, I started doing a lot of like tapings for things, like for gospel artists and churches and things that were doing like worship projects that were all live streamed. So we would go in the studio and everybody'd be masked, we'd get tested. And then we would record, 7 or 8 songs for a Sunday service or something like that. So I kind of was still able to be playing, I wasn't on a stage performing necessarily until really just like a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
We did one thing in Texas. Well, let's see. Back in August, I went to the Woodshed Guitar Experience with Andy Wood and Joe Bonamassa and Andy Timmons, Greg Koch, Brent Mason. Yeah, a lot of hacks.
Right.
And so we had a nice little hang up there that was safe and did some performing there and some teaching. So that was a nice little getaway and very cathartic as well. And then started doing a couple shows in the fall in Texas. Texas is they're kind of moving a little forward about opening stuff up. So, we can take advantage of it if we feel safe with it. And so actually my band is playing Friday at a club.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. You want to give a little shout out to that venue?
Oh, sure. Yeah. It's the Magnolia Motor Lounge in Fort Worth. We'll be there this Friday, the 26th. So it's going to be really fun. Yeah. I love playing. I love doing like the local thing, it's good because play loud.
You're coming home. Not only that, but you're also able to come home and sleep in your own bed that night.
Exactly.
Do you know Nate Morton, drummer on The Voice?
Yeah.
So Nate's a dear buddy of mine, and I asked him about. He's got a whole basketball teams with the kids, right? He's got many children.
Okay, I don't know him that well, but yeah, all right.
Okay, he just said his gig is his dream gig because he's playing every night in Studio City, and then he lives up in Santa Clarita, and he can go up and sleep in his own bed every night. Where it's touring, you sleep, you live out of a suitcase, and some of those venues and trips are really, really nice. But he can go and do his tennis lessons with his kid in the morning, and so he doesn't feel like an absentee dad. So it's nice. A lot of guys in those kind of gigs take it for granted, right? They're like, oh man, I'd rather be doing X, Y, and Z. Nate was one of those guys that told me he was playing with Cher and Caesars in Vegas at a residency, and we were hanging out between sound check and the gig. We had dinner, and he was telling me about how I think it may have been Carmine Rojas, bass player, told him. Nate goes, "Hey man, I hate to do this to you, but I gotta go, gotta get the gig." And the guy said, "You get to go. You don't gotta go, And he said, think about it. He said, if you think of it as an obligation, 1 million people would be standing in line to take your gigs, right? So it changed. It's a good perspective thing for me. I think, man, any opportunity I have, that little dingy gig that I did on Thursday was as fulfilling to me as playing the Greek the last time we played.
Sure.
It was just so good to get out. Tell me about like a bucket list gig for you. I mean, you talked about playing Royal Albert Hall, which is on my list.
Yeah, I mean that was pretty big. This other band I have called the Fearless Flyers, we played at Madison Square Garden a while ago. Yeah, so that was cool. I mean, that was an interesting gig because it's like you can't even see past like the fifth row, and so you're just like, well, I guess there's some people here, and then after the tune you hear them and you're like, oh, well, all right.
I was gonna say, yeah, are you wearing in-ears?
No.
Okay. Then
so I mean, you hear peripherally, yeah, but and Royal Albert is kind of the same thing, because the Snarky Puppy audience is like, if we're playing a ballad, you can hear a pin drop in that room, which is crazy. Yeah. So we made this live record at the hall, and the first track is this really beautiful ballad that starts with like a solo guitar thing, and I'm like up there in front of 5,000 people, and it's just I just only hear myself. It was kind of nuts.
Naked. Yeah,
you're out talking about. Yeah,
you close your eyes.
That was pretty wild.
You close your eyes at that point.
I think I did. I did. But there was also a spotlight, but I also sort of had to make sure I was playing on the right frets. Like I didn't get totally lost, because that's where I start making mistakes. But so that was pretty special. Yeah.
It would if you were to talk to a 15-year-old Mark Lettieri and say, hey, guess what you're going to be doing in a couple of years? Is that something that you just knew in your heart? Man, I'm going after that. I'm going to play these halls. And
yeah.
Okay.
I think
there's no doubt.
Well, there was no doubt. I didn't know how I was going to get there. I think that's the thing. It's like I had no idea that I was going to get there, but I knew that I was going to do something that was going to be great.
Yeah.
In music, or whatever. I don't know. I hope this doesn't sound like I was going to be great, because that's not what I mean.
No. I don't hear any pretentious.
But like you get a goal, and then along the way you start to understand if it's actually achievable.
Sure.
Or if it's like, I should find a different goal. And both of those things have happened, situations where I'm like, I don't think this is going to work out and probably doesn't need to work out. So let's divert my attention to something else, but playing a venue like the Royal Albert Hall was always something I'm like, it's going to happen. Something's going to happen. Yep. We're going to get there. I'm talking with a screwdriver for some reason.
This is a tool, the tool of the trade.
I know. I fidget with my hands. So
I love it. Do you want to fidget with a guitar and play a little bit of something?
Oh, I don't know. No.
If you don't have to if you don't want to.
Here, it's unplugged, but I tuned one of my PRSs down to a baritone, so it's nice and
yeah.
So it's nice and funky now. Well, it's always funky because it's a PRS, but
you don't need a bass player there. It's just
screw them.
Yeah,
you got to pay those guys.
Oh God, that right there makes me want to play drums. Just what you did. Oh my God, that's fun. Yeah, man. I know Greg Bissonette, fantastic drummer right from your area there, and Federico Pol. Fed Pol.
Federico.
Federico's right. The most recent thing is Lindsey Buckingham, and he was with Joe Cocker forever. And but he and Greg Bissonette were both playing that scene for a long time, and he's got great stories about. There's a lot of talent in that area that's sort of underground. He said, you could walk into any of these clubs and it'd blow your mind that you would never think. Right, that this sleepy little Fort Worth is the home of some of the greatest. But
between Fort Worth, Dallas, and Denton, there is just some of the greatest musicians in the world. I mean, it's crazy the talent that's here.
Yeah, and they stayed.
That's why I stayed. Yeah, that's why I stayed, because I was like, I want to be a part of this.
Yeah,
I want to hang out with you guys. Can I hang out, please? So.
Are there any guys that you see around there that you think they should be huge? Now, there was a band that I saw that we did some shows with that was from, I think, that area called Podunk. That we played with them with King's X years ago.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
I thought, oh my God, they were such a great trio. And the lead singer was playing guitar. And I thought, this band's going to be massive. And then nobody ever heard from him again. And so any sleepy bands there that you think, all right, this is kind of a, the secret that I shouldn't reveal. But
oh man,
besides the fearless flyers.
Well, let's see. Well, you know what? A lot of my friends, I think, should all be rock stars.
Yeah,
rock star level. Yeah, the guys that play in my band: Jason Thomas, Wes Stevenson, Sean Martin. You know, Bobby Sparks is quite honestly one of the most insane musicians on planet Earth. He's a keyboard player. He can play anything with keys.
Yeah,
and he's just. If you look up funk in the dictionary, it should be a picture of like George Clinton, you know, Prince, James Brown, and then Bobby. I mean, really.
Right. Maybe Bootsy might be there somewhere, but
yeah. Well, all the people that we know, but then Bobby Sparks should be there. So if you're watching, go look up his music. He's been a mentor to me and a lot of players around here.
I love that.
Yeah, really special cat.
How about like outside music? Somebody that really influenced it, just the way you carry yourself, or you know, the type of person you are. Maybe wasn't a musician.
Yeah, well, I mean, my dad really, you know, just I mean, you know, him and my mom have been married for a billion years, you know, so or like a long time. But you know, he's a great man, and just the way he's always conducted himself and you know handled family and everything. I'm like, cool, I'm gonna do that, but with a guitar.
Really?
So, yeah, you know, and my grandfather, you know, like I don't know, something about Lettieri men, they're like good dudes. So
DC,
man.
like hardworking, good work.
Yeah,
I like that. Do you have siblings?
I don't. I have someone I would call my sister. We're not of blood relation, but we grew up together, and so she's basically my older sister.
So raised in the same household. So she had
raised down up the street.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was wondering, like, who else was the beneficiary of the Lettieri father influence?
Sure. Well, yeah. I mean, she actually started as my like babysitter, and then just sort of like our families were super tight, and so we're just like, well, they're brother and sister now. You know, so it's kind of one of those scenes. Yeah.
I love that. I sometimes, you know, when siblings are fairly close in age, and you know, there's a fantastic musician in one of them, it's a real competitive thing, right? Because you can see the passion for you. I mean, obviously, you've spent tremendous hours. You know, they talk about the 10,000 hours to master a skill.
Right.
You've certainly put those 10,000 hours in, and then some, I would imagine. And you know, if you were to have a sibling, and that sibling was a musician, that would be a real challenge to have to live up to, right? So, do you feel like you're in any position as a mentor like your dad been to you? You don't have children, right?
No, I do have a daughter.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. So she's almost 4. And so, awesome. But you know, with music, cause my parents didn't push me into it or anything. I sort of discovered it kind of on my own, and I'm going to have that be the same case with her. If she doesn't want to do it, fine.
Sure.
If it's not for her. If she wants to do it, take your pick, you know? Just not that one, you know? Or maybe that one, but you can have that one.
Well, she can just be the other instruments that you don't have in the band, right? So
yeah, exactly. Well, I don't know. We need a bigger house if she's gonna play drums, though, because I don't know if I can. But
or just electric kid, right?
Electric, exactly.
What a great age, though, and really, how cool is it that you do get to stay home this year at an age where it's really development is just she's getting to know her dad, and that's fun.
It's been a blessing. Yeah, it really has sort of a blessing in disguise, as they say. But it's like, yeah, man, I didn't want to miss this.
Right? Yeah. No, good for both of you guys. Then, and this is a loaded question. If I ever ask about somebody who's supported, how your relationship is impacted. Is your wife of you out touring, and she understands that this is what your lifeblood is all about?
Yeah, she does. And we were together for many years before we were married. So she knew kind of the quote unquote, I don't want to say lifestyle, but she knew that I was traveling around a lot. And, you know, I really lucked out. So.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like she probably did too, because it seems like
maybe.
Well, so. You know what? Really, I mean, you really do seem like you're so level-headed, and it's fun to see, you know, somebody that's so diverse musically and you know, and creative and passionate about their music, but obviously a family guy. You know, when we we look at your, this is silly 60-minute Barbara Walters kind of question, but we talk about your last dying breath. Like if we were to look at your headstone, what's Mark Lettieri's legacy? What do you want that to be?
Oh man, was cool, loving, and had decent tone.
Oh, I love that, man. You don't want to change the priority in the order of any of those?
I don't know. Whoever's doing the inscription, the laser engraving, whatever they feel.
Right. Yeah.
But
the tone got to be a subject in that Q&A that you were part of, right? For Jennifer Batten's symposium. And I, as a drummer, I tell you, my first real gig with Jennifer was the World Guitar Congress in Baltimore. And the very first one, Eric Johnson, John Schofield. I mean, there were cats there, right?
Wow.
Similar to the cats you were talking about. And Dale, we had breakfast all together. And I remember sitting around and Eric Johnson saying, my God, like Jennifer Batten's tone is my favorite tone. And I'm like, wait, you're the tone guy. What the hell? I mean, awesome. Every guitarist I know has said that Eric Johnson's tone was their favorite. Sure. Right. But do you have a favorite toned, not besides your own, who's got your favorite tone?
Well, mine's not my favorite. But oh man, well, yeah, I mean, Eric Johnson's really all of the artists who have a singular voice have a tone. And we all do as players, right? So it's just how you kind of develop that. But all of the players that we respect, the Eric Johnsons, the Eddie Van Halens, the John Schofields, the Spanky Alfords, they all have their own sound, and I think as a session musician, or at least when I put on that hat, it's kind of good to understand all these great tones, because then you can kind of bring them into your work. But then when I put on my artist hat, I have to take those tones and then understand how they really sound sort of manipulated through my own voice.
Sure.
And so that's the thing I'm constantly searching on and kind of trying to perfect, I guess.
The quest, man. You mentioned PRS. I love those guitars. I think
sure.
Me too. It's interesting though. I asked a car question to a friend of mine. Are you a car guy at all?
No.
Okay.
The check engine light is still on.
What I noticed though is I've had friends that had muscle cars, and I've rented different cars when we're out on the road. For some reason, even modern day Mustangs still have this growl that I could not identify. I don't know, where does this come from? So I asked my car guy these, and they talk about the different exhaust, and it's mostly the muffler and exhaust system. But it's that thing with the tone with a guitar, like a Paul Reed Smith without any effects pedals has such a different tone than say a Strat or a Tele or a Les Paul. And so for a layman, what is it the density of the wood? Is it the construction of the body? Tell me really what throws a different sound into Paul Reed Smith.
Oof, this might be a question for Paul, but
I'm just pushing the endorsement thing hard.
Yeah. Well, to me, they're just super dynamic guitars. And that's what I always gravitated about them, because, and I talked about this with my own model. It's like, I want to be able to hear myself, whatever that is that I am that day. I want the guitar to just personify that. Now I know every guitar has a sound. I know that, people are like, well, you want the guitar to sound so, obviously, but that tone should be able to be malleable and changed by the person that's playing it. Yeah. And I feel like with the PRS guitars that we play, it's like, yes, this is me. This one can be me, right? Yeah. I don't like the guitars to tell me what I should sound like.
Wow, nice.
You know what I'm saying?
I know
that. Like I said, I know the guitar has a sound, but let's sound together.
Yeah.
I don't want to fight with you. There should be a symbiosis here. You know what I mean?
What a relationship. I love that.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Does your wife get envious of that? She doesn't need to know that. We won't say it. But, there is that connection, right? When I talked about the dry spell, right, of not playing and not being able to play music with people, it's kind of because the band there's intimacy there, right? There is some connection that you have that it's not sexual, but you can't explain it, right? When you're vibing, man, when you're on stage and the unspoken things that happen there, when magic happens, it's partly on stage, but it's also, I don't know if you're like me, I can just feel from people out in the crowd. And that's what I miss so much, is that I can focus on one person who I can see is totally into that show. And for the rest of it makes it for me, because I can see that they are feeling every note, every lyric, every beat, So is it like that for you too?
Yeah, I think so. Hang on, my
Or
mic just got like super hot. Let me turn this down real quick. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like it's interesting. Like, I think early on, when I would play ballads or something and there were people talking, I would get sort of offended by it. But I'm kind of growing out of that now, and just sort of like being in the moment and just kind of going with whatever's happening in the room, whatever I need to say, whatever the other musicians on stage are doing. And so, that's just kind of a personal thing I'm working on. Is maybe not getting so affected by maybe what's going on in the crowd. But obviously, yeah, if they're having a great time, then it just makes you go even crazier, which is always really cool. So
the part that's unexplainable is that goosebump moment, right? Where everything, and it's hard for me to explain to non-musicians, but and that's kind of the intimate part that I talk about. It seems orgasmic that it's like, I mean, your eyes roll back in your head, everything aligned in such a perfect way that whether the room was right, for me, I know it sounds silly, man, but if the drum riser is a certain density where there's a bounce to it, and I can feel the sub in the in the floor, and then it's that whole concoction where you threw all these ingredients in, and it doesn't happen every gig, but when it happens, you chase it. It's like a drug, And I think you talked about how you could, certain things were thrown your way where you could go this way or that way depending on whatever factors affected your decision to pursue. Right. All of those friends of mine that have come and gone as musicians that have said, man, you know what? I just can't handle X, Y, or Z part of the business. They obviously haven't had that drug, right? And they have not had that.
I don't know.
Because it's hard, for me, I feel like I want to do this until I just can't anymore.
Right. That's why we keep saying yes.
Yeah. Always say yes. Yes.
It could be really awesome. Let's try it out.
Man. Are there any sort of other bucket list, not venues, but like if you could put together your dream band, so Mark Lettieri, so if you're the music director.
Okay. Maybe I wouldn't say a dream band, but there are definitely people that I would love to play with that I haven't gotten a chance to play with. I'd love to play with Bernard Purdy, the drummer.
Oh,
I'd love to play with Pino Palladino, the bass player.
Of course.
Love to play with Stevie Wonder,
Oh, yes.
I would love to play. Man, I'd love to play with like Zakk Wylde, or James Hetfield or something, like, rock.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like just that. So I'd love to play with John Scofield or something, hopefully on a tune that doesn't have too many changes. Or Robin Ford.
Oh my! Man, I could see that pairing really well.
Could be fun. I don't know.
I could see you and Robin go. I did a gig a couple years ago in Portland that Bernard Purdy was one of probably 6 people in the audience at the show.
Wow!
And I didn't know it till afterwards. We did Stratus.
That's better.
Yeah. It's better that I didn't know. Yeah, because hey, look. Mark, if this is Jeremy from 5 Star Guitars, we'd love to have you visit us in the store the next time you're in the Portland area.
Hey, very cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
Nice to hear from you. Yeah, I'd love to be up there.
So they, I mentioned 5 Star earlier. They have an incredible collection of PRS guitars. And as a drummer, cool. I'm, it's like a kid in a candy store because I walk in there. Now, this particular music store, it's not just because they're the sponsor of the show. At the head of the episode, I talked about lessons and repairs. They were just voted. NAMM voted them the #1 vendor in the world. They were the top music vendor in the world in Beaverton, Oregon, of all places. Right? They beat out all the guitar centers and all the boutique shops. A lot of it had to do with the attention that they pay. I mean, really, the customer service is huge, but being able to deal with, even through the pandemic, being able to all of a sudden jump into streaming lesson opportunities, and also isolated, COVID safe lessons. The repairs, or they've got a top repair shop. And so if you come through Portland, you definitely
Great.
have to get in there, man.
Yeah.
Joff Metz, the owner of that shop, goes to Congress often. He's asked to go to Congress to sort of petition for music education in schools. And
That's
it's
awesome.
really, and as a musician, and I know you get this, schools have lost their funding in so many ways, right? So you've got a 4-year-old daughter coming up who probably won't have music classes unless you're in private school, right? So if she's in any public school at all, and so what he's trying to do, and like others that I work with, are out there trying to either get grants or some kind of after-school funding, so that if you want your kid to play music, then they can still do it in a way, either finding music education for genres and instrumentation and cultures of music, or studying and playing an instrument. I think it's important because, as you know, for you, for me, it's fulfilling. But I know that it makes us better people. I think there's a language we speak that it would be a tragedy if schools don't offer this.
Yeah, I mean, even if you don't, I think people think, well, they're not going to become professional musicians, so they don't need music in school. It's like, no. Just they need to teach them how to play the recorder or something. Like, there's so much you can learn from like just communicating sonically with other people. It's just fun. You know what I'm saying? It's like you go to a bar and sing karaoke. Well, we all like that, right? Because you're communicating music with people. It's not sounding good, So if an opportunity with kids get to do that, like it's really cool at the church down the street from our house. They had like a little music class for kids, like little kids, 2-year-olds, and they would go in there and just bang on shit. And it's like, this is perfect. Like, why can't they just do this, through school, So I'm all for them. Good job, 5-star guitarist. Thank you guys. That's awesome.
Absolutely. When you mentioned that there was, it was the opportunity for them to communicate sonically. There was a pregnant pause when you said that, because I wanted that to be a soundbite. I loved the way you delivered that. It's tough again too to explain to people that maybe don't want to raise their kids with music because they don't understand the benefit, and because if they think that their kid should be involved in music because they want it for a career, it's obviously the wrong angle to take, right? Because of course it's a difficult time or a difficult industry to break into, where you're going to put food on the table and have a retirement plan. Probably not happening, right? But there is this richness and fulfillment that you get, whether you're a weekend warrior playing in a bar band, you're playing in church on Sundays, whether you're playing, at a klezmer bar or a klezmer event, a klezmer, gig, for baristas and I think anybody that has interacted musically, they've gone past the recorder where there are two people in a room playing the recorder, and they've learned to experience it with each other. To me, that's where just magic happens, because there's a give and take. There's the interaction, even if you're playing recorder and another person's listening, but actively listening, right? Listening to the notes and how it makes them feel. It's a beautiful thing, and the science behind music is pretty amazing, right? To look at what it does for the frontal lobe, the development there.
Well, it's a language, so it's like, you wouldn't yell at your kid if they wanted to learn French, right? So why would you? So let them learn music.
Some people might. Some people might actually. But,
maybe.
Are you a fan of the 80s?
In what way? But yes.
Silly 80s movies.
Oh, okay. I know many of them.
Okay, the Better Off Dead. You probably know. I'm doing another episode here in a couple hours. Diane Franklin, who is Monique from Better Off Dead, and there's a famous scene in the movie where they talk about she's French, and they talk about, we know French, we serve French fries and French silliness. But I was tying your French thing into my next episode, which could be fun. But awesome. That may not be as fun as watching Tawny try to navigate over like jaguars, right? But, actually, I have Rudy Sarzo coming up the next day, and I would think,
very cool.
I want to see you play with Rudy Sarzo. I think that'd be a fun.
I'd love to, man. That'd be really fun. I love the snake.
Yeah, and his Quiet Riot days and all those things. But
that's right.
The cool thing is, like I mentioned, finding avenues outside of music that are also fulfilling. He's a really successful computer animator, and so
Really?
yeah, that's
that.
his.
Cool.
That's the bread and butter when the publishing's not coming in. So
okay.
if
Wow.
Mark Lettieri was not going to be a guitarist, what would Mark Lettieri's backup career be?
We can't. It's not related to music, right? I
Yeah,
guess.
or it could be.
Well, all right. Well, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe like a professional surfer. I don't even surf, but like that just sounds. This just sounds so rad. Like,
yeah.
Go. Hey, could you go to Tahiti for 2 weeks and surf, and we'll pay you? Like, yeah,
yes, absolutely.
Something outside. I think I would like to do something outside.
I love that. Yeah, man. Was that your daughter that just showed up?
Oh, I think they're back from the walk. They
okay,
went on a walk. So
nice. Give you a little bit of quiet time. Well,
yeah.
Then I'm gonna let you then get to family time. But
thanks.
Man, I was excited to get a chance to talk one-on-one because your interaction, your demeanor in that symposium was so engaging and so fun. I could just tell that one of those cats that when I come through Dallas, and we're supposed to come in August, we got some dates already lined up. So,
dude, I'm there. Do you know when where you're playing?
I do. One moment here. Don't mind me, folks. While
I want to come see the flock, man. I'm ready.
Yeah, let's see. Part of the Lost 80s Live shows. Oh, you know what?
Okay.
I have to look it up on their site. Isn't that horrible?
Oh.
But
so it's you guys, and do you know who else is playing?
I do. Yeah, usually it's a really cool collaboration of 80s bands. And oftentimes we'll do like Wang Chung, Motels, Romantics, Miss Persons, all that kind of stuff. So that one happens to be is that the Arena Theater? Oh, that's in Houston. The theater at Grand Prairie. August 21st with Flock of Seagulls, Romantics, Naked Eyes, Farrington and Man from When in Rome, and there's a bunch of bands on this one. All right, The Vapors, Glass Tiger, Animotion, Musical Youth. Remember Pass the Dutchie? That was their big Boys Don't Cry, Dramarama, Bow Wow Wow, Tommy Two-Tone, Gene Loves Jezebel. Look at all these bands. Yeah. All right. Everybody's going to go down.
Like all day? I guess it's got to be all day.
Well, admittedly,
that's going to be fun.
Handful of us only have a handful of hits, right? So I think we do like
just plays one song. But
we do I think we do a 40-minute set, and a lot of the other bands do 15 to 20. So
all right.
Quick changeovers. They go like the rotating. I think that one has the rotating stage, right? So one band's playing, as soon as they finish, then the other bands come on.
Spin it.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. You have to.
Well, please, I'll put it in my calendar, but please remind me because that might be a fun date night.
I would love that. Yeah,
friends to go. That'd be cool.
I would love it, man. Folks, if you're just now getting hip to Mark Lettieri, hit the link below. This guy is everywhere. I was going to talk to you about some of the sessions. They can go to your website. They'll look at the bio. What's the next recording that you have coming out?
The next thing I have coming out is releasing on April 16th. It is called Deep the Baritone Sessions Volume 2. And it's a side of my music that I do based on the baritone guitar. And it's kind of like aggressive funk rock fusion with a whole bunch of cool. We just put out a single. Steve Lukather is the guest guitar player on it. He's really good. If you haven't
he's already. Yeah. In fact, Steve is the next guest artist on Jennifer's Cloud Symposium. So
he's one of the world's greatest humans. I love that guy.
That's beautiful, man.
So he's on the single.
April 16th is the new 16th. Record.
Yeah,
beautiful, man. Mark Lettieri, I really appreciate this.
Kevin, thank you. My pleasure.
Five-star guitars. Thanks for chiming in. I'm glad you guys are watching these important shows. And if you want to see an archive of this, go to accesskevin.com late tonight. I'll have it there. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to this channel right here, because if you do, you're going to get access to 170 episodes of All Access Live that started May 4th. So lots of episodes. And I will have, let's see, I think next week, like I said, I've got Tawny Katane, I've got Rudy Sarzo, got a really cool episode with Stevie Salas, Dave Abruzzese, and Melvin Brannon coming up. It's going to be a wicked one. So in the meantime, go check out Mark's stuff and go enjoy your family time and have some dinner.
All right.
Thank you for being here, buddy. You guys have a
Kevin.
great day. Talk to you soon. And I'll be back in a couple of hours with Diane Franklin from Better Off Dead.